Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents our Conversations Live, depending on what platform you're listening to us on. I'm Cyrus Webb, excited to be back here in Los Angeles with actor Dustin Harnish. We're talking to Dustin not only about the amazing 2019 that he had, but also his career, what it's been like for him to do work that he loves, and of course, let him tell you guys how to stay connected with him. Dustin, welcome back to the program. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cyrus. Yeah. I really appreciate it.
Look, it's great to have you back. We had you with a great conversation last year here in Los Angeles, and I want to talk about 2019 first of all. We're beginning a new year now. What has it been like for you to reflect on last year and the things you were able to do?
Last year was an interesting, wild ride. I can say that. We had the release of Running Out of Time. Mm-hmm. That did a lot of things for me in terms of, opening new doors, getting me out there into the industry eye, into the eye frame, if you will, which is a very difficult thing to do. A guy like myself who came out to Los Angeles with not a dime to his name. I slept in a car for 2 years. Didn't really have any avenues of money, any means to. It was a rough time. Jobs were down in that time. This was 2004. Coming out here with nothing. Again, a two-door Honda Civic. I was a drummer at the time. I moved here originally to play music and found myself getting really lucky. Just kind of, cleft note, when you believe in something, you kind of just put it out there in the universe, whether it's subliminal in the back of your mind or at the top in the forefront of your everyday thought. When you know that this is what you want to do, you kind of you go all in. You don't make any sacrifices or breaks for that. You miss a lot of fun things, family time, vacations. There's things you just, at least from my experience, it took me a long time to sort of gather my druthers, get on my feet, and finally get my first, piece of body of work to go in. As a valet boy working at a voiceover studio all these years ago. But yeah, fast forward now back into 2019, now 2020. A lot of these things happened because of my friend Chris Stokes, who's actually my manager as well. And him and I got together back in the end of 2010 and did that movie No Vacancy. And since then, he's kept me on his radar, and he's kept me in movies. Whenever he has a chance to put me in something that I'm right for, he offers it to me and, has me work on it. And if it works out, we do it. Right. And through that, there's been other projects that I've done. Right now, we've got a film in the film festival circuit called The Delivery. We just won first place. Amazing. In the Hollywood Film Festival. And I found out the other night from the director, Wayman Boone, shout out, that they're going to play it at the Hollywood Cemetery. It was kind of like a screening for a bunch of people. Right. I think that's coming up at the end of January or something like that. But maintaining the focus, the style of life, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind. I'm married. I have a wife at home that supports me every day. That helps. Mm-hmm. I'm really lucky I have a good family, mom and dad and my stepfather. That really helps because when you have things that happen, right, when we go through these bumps in life, which we all do, mm-hmm, and you have someone that's older and wiser that can talk to you, that makes a world of difference. And they're not always going to agree with what you're doing. They're not always going to agree with your path and your choice of life. My parents wanted me to stay home, mm-hmm, and go to school, right, all that kind of stuff. And because my mother was an artist, she was married to my father at the time, who was a cop, and he didn't like her being out in nightclubs and bars, which is where she was playing all the time. But my mother was such a profound artist in her own right. She had this voice that would just knock you off your feet, like power. Yeah. There's certain power singers out there like Cher, Mariah Carey, mm-hmm, Celine Dion, mm-hmm, Anita Baker, Whitney Houston. And at those times, my mom was, in the 80s, my mom was a singer. Wow. And so I remember being a kid listening to all of those different artists because she listened to a lot of R&B on her CD player and her tape player. There were tapes back then. When we'd be driving around in the car and I'd be going to school or something, and remember just because I was so musically inclined on the drums and also singing, I just listened to my mom, and she was such a huge influence on me. So it was kind of weird. The older I got, school wasn't really my thing. I didn't want to go to college. I went and did like a year and a half of community college, mainly for the theater. We didn't have the money at the time to send me to a nice college. My mom couldn't afford it at the time. She does very well now for herself, but back then, I mean, we were sort of devastated by, a breakup in our family with my father and my dad.
Gotcha.
And, my mom had to rebuild her life for so long, and she did such an incredible job raising me, taking care of herself, being a stand-up individual for me to look up to, So I'm looking back on this 2019, and I reflect for myself all the way back to when I was a kid, because really, at the end of the day, I have to give it all to her.
Gotcha.
You
bring up an interesting thing, and I hope our audience caught that, Dustin. You're talking about the rebuilding that your mother did.
Yeah.
I think we all kind of, especially when a new year comes, right, we kind of do the reflection thing, and we think about how we're going to make this year better, right? And a lot of times people, unfortunately, didn't have a good last year, whatever year that might have been, and they have to do the rebuilding. Do you think that example helped you to not be afraid to rebuild? Because a lot of times, like you said, we all have things in life happen. Do you think having that example helped you, that if something did come your way that was challenging, that you had an example of what you could do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Going back to my mother again, she told me when I made this decision to move out, because I had moved out shortly before I had made the move down to LA. I'm from San Jose originally. Okay. And at the time we were living in Hollister, California, where I went to high school when my mom married my first stepfather, Bill, who's like my dad. I mean, I love you, Bill, Dad. Love you to death. And then she married my stepfather of the present, Hugo, who I also love to death. I'm lucky to have these men in my life. When I moved, I said, you know what? I'm going to go and chase this dream. My mom said, don't do that. I really highly recommend you don't. We want you to stay home and go to school. And, that was probably partially based on her experience.
Gotcha.
So, but I'm also her only child, and so she was being a mama bear, but she didn't want me to go. She wanted me to stay sort of in her area so that she could guide me and look after me. So she told me, she's like, if you're going to go do this and this is what you're going to do, I'm not going to help you out. I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to support you. You have to go get it. As bad and as hard as that is for me to tell you that, son, this is what you got to do. And, I wasn't pissed about that. That didn't strike a chord in me. It struck a different kind of chord in me where it said, fight or flight. This is the first time in your life, besides being in school, I was bullied a lot in school. So I had to go through that, which is a whole different fight or flight. But that same mentality, I used to play football as well, and that's a very team effort. It's a dig deep effort. You're in pain, you're getting crunched by 200 and something pound guys, and you got to go down and win for your team and for the people that are supporting you. And I used that sort of same mantra in my acting career, because it's something that I believe this is what I'm put here to do. And I'm not going to let anything stand in front of that. And really the only thing that's going to stand in front of you at the end of the day is yourself.
Yeah.
So I had to get out of my own way and go, well, yeah, I'm not going to have any support out here. I'm not going to have any help. That's fine by me. Lived in the car, and I found a way out of it. And so, dealing with that was hard. And it's been hard over the years. I've had many ups and downs, lots of bumps in the road, lots of, tough sticks to grind. But somehow you stay focused, you stay with it. When the pit of your stomach rumbles with hunger, you'd be surprised what you can do.
That's right. You mentioned the teamwork of sports, and it's interesting because I thought about it. Dustin and I actually connected because of the film Running Out of Time that he mentioned earlier. Teamwork definitely plays its role in the entertainment industry, right? I mean,
100%.
Because you mentioned, of course, what it's been like for you to be able to work with Chris Stokes, and you've been able to form another coalition of other actors you've been able to work with in friendships. How has that also helped you? Because as you mentioned, you came out here by yourself. How has having that support of your peers in these projects, how has that helped you throughout your career now?
Well, when you get to a place that's foreign to you and you're left to survive, now you have to pick yourself up and go and survive. it's amazing how when you help yourself, others want to help you.
Yeah.
If you're not doing anything, if you're just sitting on the couch or just throwing a poor me party, no one cares. Mm-hmm. You know, no one really wants to give you anything anyway. You got to earn it. Yeah. You really got to go out and earn it. And you know, that's the best answer I can give to that is the way it's affected my career and my life really is just kind of having to check myself all the time, because remembering where you come from is a big deal.
Yeah.
And when you didn't have anything, when you didn't have anyone believing in you, when you had no support, and then because you stuck it out and fought for it, now you do, mm-hmm. it's worth it. And then once you gain that support, the sky's the limit. It might take a little longer than you had anticipated. You know, it might be a little harder than you anticipated, but it's very doable.
That's right. For those who are just tuning in, you're watching Cyrus Webb Presents our conversations live, depending on what platform you're tuning in. We're speaking with actor Dustin Harnish today. We're talking to Dustin not only about the journey to doing what he loves as an actor, but also the journey to where he is today. And of course, we're going to let you guys know how to stay connected with him. So that brings us into social media. I mentioned to you before we begin this segment, Dustin. I mean, that's the way that you and I have stayed connected. We actually are having this conversation thanks to Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how crazy the world is these days, right?
It is.
So I want to talk about what you've been able to share, because a lot of times, myself included, when we share the projects that we're working on, we're sharing, and I not do just share other things like motivational messages and that kind of thing. You've been able, what really to me stands out about you and what you share is you share what you've worked on, but you also share a part of yourself. Not everyone's comfortable doing that. How did you get to a place where you wanted to take us into who you were outside of the acting?
Well, see, because I think so many of us actors are so private in our nature because of what goes around your job.
Sure.
And because you can be seen on a TV show or heard on an awesome interview like this, so people might recognize you, and you know, it's different for them, the experience, and it's different for you as the artist as the experience, but it's inevitably for them. So for me, it's the human experience. You know, I like to share what I've done, and I like to, I mean, even if we're not talking about the industry, if we're not talking about it, we're talking about life, or you have an experience that you want to share that I might have insight on, or I might share one with you that you might have insight on. Mm-hmm. So I feel the human connection, the human experience is what we're all here for. We need each other. You know, we need friends, we need family, we need people to talk to.
Yeah.
And I love what I do because it's such a bigger and more broad outreach of that. You know, the more people you get to touch a part of someone's life, that energy is reciprocated onto you.
That's right.
You know, it brings me joy to be able to share part of this short life that we live, but it's so beautiful that we take for granted every day. Mm. And so it's not all about one thing.
Yeah.
You know, what we do doesn't make us who we are. Mm-hmm. What makes us who we are is what we do with our life and the choices that we make.
I had not put this together before, but it's interesting hearing you say that and thinking about the movie Running Out of Time.
Yeah.
Because it makes you wonder, you know, because we don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen, right? As happens in this movie.
Yeah.
And to think about what life is and what really is important. Mm-hmm. You know, do you find that roles that you play or projects that you're part of are reminders of that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you never know what's the last thing. Yeah. Is this it? I mean, am I going to work again? Mm-hmm. You don't know sometimes, mm-hmm. you know, and it can get stressful and it can get daunting, you know, to look down the stretch and go, will there ever be another? Does anyone care? But you got to kind of, that's, you know, the devil on your shoulder, I guess, quote unquote.
Right.
You got to bury that. However, sometimes that keeps you alive too, because it is in the back of your mind. It does remind you that if you get caught slipping, if you sit down too long, there's something right behind you, or the road in front of you can become obscured. So you've got to keep clearing your path and stay focused, like a racehorse.
That's right.
You know, blinders on, just go straight.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy to go off track.
Right. So true, and it's a great reminder for us to take advantage of every moment. So let's talk about the what's next. Here we are in a new year. Are there things that our audience should be on the lookout for? What are you looking forward to next?
Well, I'm also writing now. And
nice.
Over the years of doing any kind of job, you build relationships, and you build working relationships as well as friendships. And ideally, you want to combine those two so that you can prolong the longevity of your career and help and support your buddies too. That's one of the best parts about being in this industry is some people look at it as competition, but I don't really see it that way. Something's right for you or it's not. But when you have the idea to create and collaborate with other artists, that's what it's about. Like when you said earlier in that previous question, what's the team effort?
Yeah.
That's one of the things I enjoy the most about it. It's one of the things I enjoy most about my marriage. It's one of the things I enjoy most about my family and my friends.
Gotcha.
If I was just sitting there by myself, it's a dark, cold world. But I have my friends and my family and my wife to keep me warm.
Wow.
So back to answer that question. Yeah, I write, and I'm currently writing an animated series.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to be pitching it.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, we're going to be pitching it to a couple of networks. And a good friend of mine, like I was speaking of before, is the head of an animation studio out of Burbank. And I can't say what it is yet because that would be a big no-no.
Okay.
But it's being developed right now. I'm already recording it. And also, just to kind of give you a hint, I will be releasing sort of like a pre-podcast storytelling format podcast online, which you'll be able to find just about anywhere, and that'll be in the next couple of months, hopefully sooner. But I'm kind of one man showing that process myself right now, just because it's easy to do from home. There's so many resources you can use as a individual artist nowadays if you're trying to just release something original and creative. And I figured it would be a great idea to do that before I start putting together the actual televised show.
Gotcha.
People will be able to listen to this. So for all of you, anyone out there who's ever watched my previous show, Dead Time Stories on Graveyard Shift, I played a voice named Deadhead. I was a talking skeleton, and I would tell scary stories, creepy cop stories, creepy night shift worker stories, creepy truckers in the middle of the night stories, and the fan base really took to this. And so having that said, I've been getting some comments on my social media, hey, when are you going to do another thing like this? When are you going to do another thing like this? Because I left that company, that show, to go do something else. And I can't, deny how much fun I had doing it. Because again, it's storytelling, right? This is what I love to do. And there are other people's stories, and for this particular show, I've created original stories. So they're fact or fiction. That's a little hint about the story. But it's going to be called True Darkness. And I'm going to be playing a character that I'm not going to really indulge on for you, but he's a scary, creepy, sort of enlightened old character that's going to give you a few excerpts about death.
Interesting.
It's creepy. So,
something to look forward to.
Across the country, a lot of the people that have liked the Dead Time Stories thing that I did is when they're driving late at night or they're alone, and some people just get off on listening to scary stories.
Yeah.
And so I guess I struck a chord doing that, and so I'm going to continue doing it for fun and see what happens with it.
See what happens. So something for you guys to look forward to. Again, everyone, Dustin Harnish has been our guest. So Dustin, you've set it up perfectly for us. How can our viewers and our listeners stay connected with you?
Well, if you'd please give me a follow on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Dustin.Harnish, DUSTIN.HARNISH. I'm also on Facebook, just Dustin Harnish, and then Twitter, I believe it's Dustin-Harnish11.
All right. And we'll make sure that we link that up for those joining us via the podcast so you guys can be able to have it. Dustin, congratulations to you, man.
Cyrus,
excited about that. He's given us a great teaser, guys, to look out for his upcoming project. And Dustin, it goes without saying, you're welcome back here anytime, man.
I appreciate that, man. Really appreciate your time, brother.
Right. We're really excited about it. And we thank you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning into this segment of Cyrus Webb Presents and Conversations Live.
Happy New Year, everyone.